And let's stay with the story and speak to Liesl Valloo, and she's the founder and director of No More Victims Safe House. No More Victims is a temporary shelter that has become a lifeline for vulnerable minors in communities like Eldorado Park. They care home houses 54 children, with majority being young girls who are impacted by the lack of resources such as sanitary pads. Liesl, thank you so much for your time this evening. Let's just start with, these girls, these young children, they're under your care. Talk to us about the circumstances that led them there.
Good evening, and thank you for inviting us to your show tonight. We are transitioning from a place of safety into a child and youth care center. The registration has been taking us almost 3 years with no joy at this stage. Yes, the struggle is real. We have a lot of young girls currently sitting on 25, where we, when there is no funding, need to make a choice. Do I send this child to school, or do I get her a dignitary pack? So yes, our struggles are real.
And before we even get there, are these girls abandoned? Or do their parents come to you and ask you to take over? Are you able to tell us how you got them?
Okay, so children are brought to our care by either SABC or designated social workers. They are the only people who are allowed to place kids in our care. So these kids are placed with a Form 36 and a Form 7, which is a medical form. So they placed by social workers and the police.
The irony of that, though, for them to be placed with you, yet you say that you're not getting funding.
Yes, we have not been receiving funding simply because of the prolonged stage of our registration. We need to employ qualified child and youth care workers. When we have had people who's been taking care of these kids for almost 10 years.
Liesl, when it comes down to the wire, as you say, that you're now making a decision between buying this young girl pads or sending them to school, it must be a difficult choice to make. Have you then been able to take all of them to school, or are some of them being, schooled where you are at the center?
Some of our kids school at this in Eldorado Park. We have a primary school very close to both houses, which is Parkdale Primary, and they are able to walk there. But we have had kids who go to school in Pimville, like, for example, Tabisile. We have kids in high school at Silver Oaks. We have kids that used to go to school in Meadowlands, as well as Protea. And yes, when you look at how much fuel is costing you right now, it's really a tough choice to make when there is no funding.
And let's talk about the issues of safety. We've seen, of course, protests by some of the community members in Eldorado Park about the safety, of young people there. How much of a concern is this for you as you're looking after these young people?
A major concern. I form part of the Yes movement, which is the tents that you see outside our police station. And that is just another call on saying, guys, this is a reality. Shootings are happening within our community. And what is SABC doing? We cannot afford to employ security guards at the two houses that we have, because you just can't afford to pay them. But it becomes, in this day and age, it becomes a necessity to have security guards at these centers.
And I
but
suppose
financially, you just can't afford it.
I suppose even safe transport for some of those who go to school quite far, because we're now even seeing,
Yes.
incidents of kidnapping, incidents of gender-based violence. I suppose then you also have to keep them safe on that front as well.
That is correct. 100% correct. Tabisile makes use of public transport. So in the morning when she gets into a taxi, you got to tell the taxi driver, these are one of the kids from the safe house. Please, can you ensure that she gets into the next taxi safely? And pray and trust God that this child will reach school safely and come back safely.
Now, Liesl, a young girl like Tabisile, for example, would have expected to have a conversation about her transition from being a young girl to now a young woman and, issues around menstruation. She would have expected that conversation to happen with her mother. How difficult is it for you as you're looking after them to then have to have these conversations and field some of the questions, including from the boys as well?
Yes, fortunately, we are a community who network with each other within our communities. So we have our clinics who visit the safe house from time to time, and they come and have these talks with the young girls as well as boys.
And, one of the things that you and I have been talking about is the issue of funding. And I suppose there's been a number of shelters that even have said that they may be facing closure, given some of the difficulties that they find themselves with. Now that for you, as a shelter, Aspen has come on board, how is that going to be able to, assist in the year that they'll be able to rally behind you with support?
That is such a blessing to the organization because they have committed for the new coming year that they will supply us with dignitary packs for the entire year. So that brings a relief. And when you look at these dignitary packs, what does a young girl need?
Yeah.
From the age of 11, they perspire. What do they need? They need a roll-on. They need a spray, the basic. They need a lotion. They need a sanitary pack. They need a little toiletry bag where they actually pack their sanitary towels in for school. So to us, that's a great blessing. And we are so grateful for that.
And it'll go a long way, Liesl, because as you say, a young child, for them, it should all be about going to school. It should all be about growing up and not to worry about some of these other issues. But thank you so much for your time and good luck for the future as you continue then to take care of these young ones. Do appreciate your time this evening. That is Liesl Valloo, No More Victims founder and director as well. And this is a shelter that is in Eldorado Park.